Hello, welcome to Inspire Me with AlinaGG, and I have a special guest today. I have Paul Finn from Staunch Digital. Welcome aboard, Paul.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good, 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 good. So we've got lots of juicy content today. We've got lots of marketing secrets, and we're going to dive straight in with you and your background. And would you like to introduce yourself a little bit more? And yeah, speak into your rock and roll past as well.
Look, I think the simplest introduction is I'm just a dude who's passionate about marketing, and I'm passionate about music and also passionate about life. So that's probably the main areas, like just in a real high level overview of all of that.
Great.
So I've been doing marketing for about 20 years and music for about 20 years, and living life for about 40 years. So it's all of that, in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And what led you to start your own marketing business?
I was kind of always doing it. So I've always had the marketing mind. Like if I go back even, into my teenage years, I wasn't aware of it as such. Like I didn't know what it was, but I was always thinking about that sort of stuff of how to change a product and add value, or how to make the process better, or how to remove annoyances for customers and things like that. Um, I wasn't fully aware of what I was doing back then, but if I look back, it was always there. And then at uni, I did marketing, and have always been pursuing it in some form. Even like when I was running a music magazine, so I was the editor, so my role was editor, but I was approaching it as marketing. So I was a marketing guy with an editing role, essentially. But I was more focused on the marketing. Like I printed heaps of mistakes. Don't
Yeah.
get me to edit the document.
Cool. Well, I guess your key message in any form of media has to tie in with the marketing. It has to come through all angles and all levels, right? It's got to be unified with the brand and the messaging. So they were lucky to have you then. If you had a good marketing eye as an editor, that's a great mix. Yeah, cool.
Well, I think every business needs to nail two things. One is your product or your service, so what people actually get, and then the other thing is you've got to tell people.
Mm.
You've got to get out there and actually tell people. And it doesn't matter how good your product or your service is, if you're not good at getting your name out there, or getting your message out there, or getting people looking at your product or looking at whatever it is, if you're not good at that, you're just going to suffer. And like we've all had those experiences where we've seen a business that's succeeding more than ours, and you look at the service or you look at the product and you're like, it's fucking shit. Why are people buying that when I've got a better product or a better service, or I'm way better than them, or I'm way smarter than them, or I'm way this than them, or whatever it happens to be. And that's marketing. That's just the ability to get out and win. And probably, like I'm guilty of this as well. It's not me pointing at everyone else. I'm in the same boat as everyone else. And the big lesson that I learned this year is that the marketing agency, like having runs on the board, and having worked with billionaires and all of that sort of stuff, doesn't make a difference. The thing that makes a difference is that you get on the phone and you talk to business owners about what their problems are, and seeing if you can actually help them and solve their problems, and having those conversations. So for a marketing agency, it's the one who talks to the most businesses wins. That's
Oh,
that's
great.
just the rule.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That
Yeah.
took me pretty much a long time to learn that.
That's great. So just getting in front of people, because we spoke about that when I did your masterclass with you recently, and that was great. And I remember you also, if we take it back a step before that, you were talking about clarity and how important that is first. So what are you saying and who are you saying it to? And yeah, would you like to speak into that? Like, do you feel like everyone has a clear message, or not really? Is they're missing something? How do businesses get more clarity?
So my favorite question with the masterclass, which is the first question, is what do you do and why do people love it?
That's
And the
right.
reason why I asked that straight up is because no one can really answer it.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, people will say something like, I'm the best in the industry, or I'm the best at what I do. And it's like, so what? You know, is that really what people want? And so you've got to, most people, I think the subtle difference is most people are telling customers what they want instead of giving customers what they want. And there's a very subtle but important difference with that. One is me focused. So if I'm telling you what you want, then it's me focused. And if I'm giving you what you want, then it's you focused. So yeah, that's the big thing with regards to clarity. So the reason why I make such a big deal about that, this actually goes, check out Anything by Donald Miller, which is these books here that he bangs on about clarity. And what he really taught me, which sort of flipped everything for me, is that like, don't be creative, don't be clever, don't be funny, don't be anything until you're clear. Because, you know, we see these creative adverts come out all the time, and they're really creative, you know, they're really stand out kind of stuff. But people watch the ad and they're like, I don't actually know what I've got to do. I don't even know what the brand is or what the brand is or what they do. I don't know what I've got to do. And so the brain just forgets it straight away. Whereas if you've got a problem and I identify that I can solve that problem, I know how to solve that problem, I have been solving that problem. These are people that I've helped, and this is the problem they had, which is the same as you. And I've moved them over here, which is where they wanted to go, which is actually similar to you, where you want to go. And if I just talk about that, and you can be more successful in marketing without trying to stand out, just being fucking clear, like just being really, really clear. And the reason why that works is because if it's too hard for me to understand what you're saying or what, you know, what the message is or anything, if it requires me work to understand what you're doing, forget about it. My brain has already switched off. And that's just a normal trigger. That's a physical trigger in the brain, because the brain doesn't want to use more energy than it has to. So your job in marketing is to make it as easy as possible for someone to understand the value of what you do. And the way you achieve that is through clarity. The way that I help people do that with my coaching, or whether I do it done for you, I've got a framework that I follow. And it's about 300 questions that you end up answering to be able to write a single web page. Now, that sounds like a lot of work. It sounds, you know, like it is a lot of work. It's about 10 hours worth of work to be able to get through the whole thing. But the reality is you always come up with something. There's always gold nuggets. Whenever I get anyone to do it on their own, or I do it with them, or I do it for them, there's always gold that comes out of it. And so since I started using that, which is why I developed it for myself, since I started using it, my copywriting just took off. And it's not because my copywriting got better or I got better writing skills or anything like that. It's because I'm answering very specific questions that are subtle questions the customers are asking themselves that they need to understand in order to buy the product. And so it's a little bit like if you've got a high-powered hose, a high-pressure hose, and no one's holding onto it, and that hose is going to go all over the place and, you know, flick around everywhere. And then you get someone to grab it and point it exactly where it needs to go. That's what a framework does. It's a bit like the train tracks, you know. If you're on the train tracks, all you've got to do is just keep going forward. But if you don't have train tracks, you know, you're likely to go anywhere and spin your wheels and all sorts of stuff like that. So even though it's a lot more work to do initially, and it can be, I've had, you know, people get quite overwhelmed by how many questions there are and the repetitiveness of some of the questions and things like that. It's like, just trust the process. Like, you know, have a coffee, you know, and just sit down and do it. And if it takes you 2 weeks, like, just take the 2 weeks, because at the end of the 2 weeks, you are going to have some gold in there that you can then go to a networking event, or go to your website, or go to your business card, or a flyer, or a magazine article, or a podcast interview, or whatever it is, and you've got your messages that you want to really lay down for the audience, for your specific audience, all around the problem that you solve, and then demonstrating how you actually solve that for them.
Wow, there's so much in there. That is great. Thank you. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, mind blown. So So, okay. So what drives you? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
Um, so I'm very relationship driven,
Mm-hmm.
which comes through my business. And I think it's probably why I've ended up in an industry like this. Um, so the best thing, like from a business perspective, the best phone call or the best message that I can have is when people call me and they're like, "Hey, we've just had our biggest month ever. On the back of our biggest months ever. This is really awesome. You're changing my life." All of that sort of stuff. Like those types of calls and those types of experiences are really what I live for. I mean, yes, it's nice that the money's in the bank and all of that stuff. That definitely makes a big difference. But the stuff that really drives me to really do what I do and to go to the nth degree to go and get those results and help people and problem solve and think differently and challenge stuff and have difficult conversations and all of that sort of stuff. As soon as I get those kinds of phone calls, it's awesome. Or messages or whatever they happen to be. It's just really awesome. So that would be the main thing that really drives me, is that people acknowledge the information that I've got. They acknowledge the work that I'm doing. They value the time that I'm giving. They love that I'm not fucking around getting them to do a whole heap of shit that they don't have to do. They love all the tracking. They love everything that we're doing. They're trusting, they're investing, all of that stuff. And as a result, they get more money in the bank. And I get these really, really awesome messages and really awesome phone calls that just light me up. It's just really awesome. And I guess the good news is, and probably the barometer for me, is that that's happening more frequently now. And so I'm just like, I just want to turn up the dial on that whole thing. If I can get one of those messages a day, that's all the energy in the world. Like
Yeah.
that's really a remarkable thing to achieve. When someone calls you and says, "Hey, this is lifting my life, it's lifting my family. I can invest more in our family's future and send them to a better school and all of these sorts of things. I'm going to go buy a house by the water." All of these sorts of things, like, they're just incredible. They're really, really incredible calls to have. So yeah.
Great. So you're making an impact in an efficient way that's helping the lives of others. That's a great, strong why to keep that momentum going on a daily basis. And I was
Pretty
going to
tangible.
well, yeah, it's very tangible and measurable. So that's great. And yeah, it's funny. We were speaking the other day about how to stay focused and motivated when you're working from home or working for yourself. And you mentioned something about an epigenetics test and having breaks at the piano throughout the day. Let's talk about that.
So I think, first of all, everyone's got to find their way to be productive. So for me, I never succeeded in an office. I've never succeeded in an office. I just can't do it, especially if it's open office. I just can't do it. So all the noise I find really distracting, all the conversations, people interrupting, asking questions, the conversations that kind of, go over the top of your head, that you sort of end up inside your head, all of those kinds of things, like, that you're accidentally listening to, all that sort of stuff does my fucking head in. And that was a business where I was working probably about 5 years ago, and his office was under his house. And I asked him, because they always had the radio on, and I was like, fuck, like, do I need to bring earplugs? Do I need silencing headphones? Can you set my office up in the garage? Like, I'm happy to work in the garage by myself. And they thought I was crazy, like that. They thought I was crazy. But now, I work from home, that as a method for me. Now, it doesn't work for everyone. I've got a mate who really thrives. He's a really, really good friend of mine. I've known him for 20 years. Went to school with him. He's a marketing consultant. He loves the open office. He loves the noise. He loves the energy. He loves all of that shit. And so, he thrives and I crumble. And if we swapped, it would, do this. He would crumble in an environment like this. But for me, like, I love the silence. Like, I don't have music playing during the day. Like, I don't have anything like that. So when I'm working, everything's nice and quiet. And I've got my setup designed for me, which is really, really cool. I'm looking to improve a few different things with the setup that I've got. But yeah, so probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I did an epigenetics test. And so basically what that's all about is that you are the expression of your genes. So your genes from the moment you were conceived has been expressing itself. And the length of your fingers, the relationship, all of these sorts of different things, the jawline, the circumference of your head, all of this sort of stuff. Your height, everything is an expression of your genes. And so what these people have worked out is, if you can measure all of that, you can start to categorize people into certain dominant patterns of people. And based on the patterns of who you are, you have certain characteristics that once you understand what they are, you can start to play with them better. So I'm very mind driven. I forget I always think champion. It's not champion. Crusader is the one that I am. And but there's a couple of other things that I've got as well. So you usually have a dominant one, and then you've got a couple of others. And so you start to create a blueprint, which is, these are the things that you've got to do, and these are the things that you've got to stop doing in order to optimize towards your body. And so the first thing they got me to do was to stop going to the gym and start doing yoga. I'm being encouraged to do Tai Chi. And the other thing that I do a lot of is music. So I play piano during the day. And up until he told me to do that, I was always seeing that as a bit of a distraction. Like I was renegade and a bit of a rebel to be, I'm working, but I'm just going to take 5 minutes to go and play music and just get that energy out. And as it turns out, it's one of the best things that I can actually do for my mind, because I've got, I'm here problem solving, I'm doing the thing. And if I go and do that, I activate different parts of my brain and I give the problem solving part a rest. And so I'm able to actually go do that. And by doing that for 5 or 10 minutes, I can come back with more energy than I had, 10 minutes ago, which is pretty cool if you're trying to problem solve and everything like that. So the big lesson with that is everyone is different, but we all fit into certain categories. And if you can start following the plans that are put forward and measuring the results, so you're either improving your life or you're not. For me, my sleep was completely out. I couldn't sleep for years. Like the last couple of years, I haven't been sleeping very well at all. Once I flipped over to yoga, I wear the orange blue light glasses every night now. I do journaling at 8, because apparently between 8 and 9 is a power hour for me for journaling. So now I do journaling between then. And a bunch of other stuff that I've got to do, relaxation techniques and things like that I'm doing now. And my sleep has improved out a slight, which for me that's the game changer. So that means, so for me to really drive my business forward, the biggest thing that was holding me back was sleep, because I was waking up in the morning feeling like someone had kicked me in the head, and then getting up and doing a full day's work and then not sleeping again, and then, repeat, which is a disaster waiting to happen. And so the fact that I've been able to solve that really quickly using this stuff. So if anyone wants to check out Ross the Boss, so it's bosslevel.net, I think is his thing. He runs a free bosslevel.live. He runs a free masterclass where you can start learning about the different body types and the different things that will impact you. And so you can start looking at it and saying, okay, I think that body type resonates with me. I have those types of problems. I'm going to try these types of solutions. And the thing is, you don't know until you try. Now, you could try some things and it's not going to work for you. But there'll be other things that you try and you'll see the results straight away. So I now know that my best food to eat is pistachios. So I'm eating pistachios all the time. Hazelnut's another really good one. Basil is a great one. Thyme is a really good one for me. All the greens, anything to do with cheese is really bad for me. Butter, I've been having butter every day since forever. And so it turns out that that's one of the really bad things for me to have. So that's gone. And I just keep removing the bad foods and keep focusing on the good foods. And if, like the other night where I just didn't feel like eating much, like I'm hungry, but I don't want to eat much. And so I made a meal based on my top best foods. It wasn't a big meal, but it was my best foods. And so I felt great after that and I had a great night's sleep and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Oh, amazing. Well, you've just answered like heaps of my questions in one little go there. So what else are we going to talk about? Yeah, okay. So if oh yeah, we spoke about the importance of education, and and you're quite passionate about that as well, aren't you? In your work.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like you come at that from different angles, and it's like an overarching thing. So let's just say someone comes to work with you, right? What's the first step? What's the first step in the process that would happen?
So well, let's unpack the education thing and why that's important, because because that sort of leads into everything else and this sets everything up. So the marketing industry, so marketing consultant and marketing agency has become a pretty dirty word, and rightfully so. Like there's lots of marketing consultants, there's lots of agencies out there, and unfortunately there's lots of business owners who have no idea what marketing is, how it works, or anything like that. And then their natural thought is, I need to get someone else in who knows what they're doing to come in and do the marketing for me. And so what ends up happening is there's two types. So there's the marketing consultant who doesn't really know what they're doing. They're doing their best, but they don't really know what they're doing, or they don't understand it intimately. And so then they come in and they start giving advice, or saying we should try this or do this or whatever, and end up spending a lot of money. And then it's the small business owner who has to pay the bill. So if it doesn't work, the consultant or agency gets paid, the advertising gets paid, and then the small business owner is left with the bill. And so if they haven't generated sales, that's fucking hard pill to swallow. And so then the second version of that is someone who's deliberately just saying, spend this, do this, do this thing. They're taking the money knowing full well that they're not giving good advice, which is fraud. So it's the promise of something and not delivering. So there's a lot of that out there. And so the best way to overcome that is through education. The more educated you are, you can either handle the marketing yourself, so you can dissect everything, you can look at it and you can say, I know exactly where it's going wrong and I know what I've got to do to fix it. So you can actually go about doing that. The other thing that it does is, if you understand marketing and you work with an agency, then you can hold them accountable, because you know how to track the data, you know how to analyze the data. And so you're not going back to them and saying, can you please explain this data to me, or can you please recommend whatever? You're going back to them and saying, hey, this particular part is down. Can you please tell me what you're going to do about it? And then they can tell you. And if you're not happy with what they're going to do, or you don't have confidence in what they're going to do, you can get rid of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So understanding the metrics helps you make the most of your investment and get the best return, and hold people accountable. And the mechanics. Yeah. Okay.
Mechanics. Yeah. So everything in marketing works like clockwork. It's all little cogs, and every cog impacts the next cog. So you've got to understand how one thing impacts the next. So the best thing that you can do, and like I said, there's only two parts to a successful business. Well, there's more, but two main things, which is your product or service and your ability to tell everyone. And so the marketing, I just think it's such an important part of the business to get right. So you've got to read books, do courses. Yes, it's going to be a lot of work. Yes, it's hard because you might have to do that after hours. But this is kind of, welcome to the party of small business. This is just the way it is. I had a call yesterday with a client, a coaching client, and he sells these beautiful watches, and his ads are doing really well. His website is not. And so he's got guys that are doing the website. They're not picking up the call. They're not getting the work done fast enough. The changes that they make are just a bit shit. And so the conversation that we had yesterday was, all right, in 8 weeks from now, you're going to be a Shopify master. That's your goal. That's the thing that's really going to drive your business forward. He's got a full-time job. He's got 2 kids. He's got this side hustle that he's building. It's a lot of work that he's got in front of him. But it's like, just, how much longer do you want to deal with this website problem? And then if you get another team in, how do you know that it's going to be a good team? Like, how do you know? And so you need to be able to do all that work yourself. You need to be able to understand the platform that you're using intimately. And you need to be able to go in and make any change that you want on any page, anything. You need to be able to go in and do that yourself. And then after that, you can outsource that with confidence. So he'll be a master in 8 weeks. We'll get all the training and everything that he needs, and we'll just put him through all of that. So he might need to do a few late nights, but at the end of that, it means that he'll never have to depend on someone again. He can get people to do the work and buy back his time if he needs to, but he'll have full control over that website. He can bang out landing pages as much as he wants. So as he launches a new ad, he can create a custom landing page, in an hour. That's all it takes. Like, it doesn't take a long time, but once you become fluent with it and good with it, you can do that sort of thing. So yeah, I just think the best thing is, there's so many benefits to getting educated. You save yourself time, you save yourself money, you save yourself stress, you save yourself all these different problems that get created by other moving parts of different, whether they're employees or contractors or whoever it is. Like, you just eliminate all of that. And the big thing that I was saying to him last night was, take control of your website. You need to be able to go in and kick those dudes out and bring them in when you need, or bring someone else in if you want to bring those in to do a specific thing. But you've got to take control of that whole thing. Why are you giving your control to another business who doesn't actually give a shit about your business? Why would you do that? Like, what kind of an investment strategy is that? The best thing you can do is get educated and take back control, and then, really focus. So we're doing all the tracking every week, really focusing on this specific KPI, which is the conversion rate. As soon as he gets that conversion rate right, his business will transform. We know that. We've done all the projections. We can see all the data. We know that. And so, we're looking at the data, and we're talking about this. We've been talking about the website problem for 4 weeks, and it's like, I can't keep having this conversation. And you're paying me to have this conversation. Like let's deal with it. Do some courses. You come back and you tell me, like, I want you to be the Shopify master in 8 weeks.
Right.
You should sort out your website in 4 weeks, or at least the main parts that we've got to sort out. And then we can nail the rest. 10 minutes left.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap it out. How can people find you, Paul, to work with you?
So just go to my website, staunch.digital. I run masterclasses, which is the main thing. So I do those for free, where I break down all the mechanics of everything. Just real high level overview of how marketing actually works. And once you understand that, you've got better confidence to do marketing yourself. The second thing that I do for people is the KPIs. So we do a marketing audit. And once I know what you're spending on ads and how your website is performing, what your average value per sale is, all of those sorts of things, I can start running projections and showing you that if you get certain KPIs in your marketing, very, very specific KPIs, you can hit any revenue target that you want. I can show you how much you need to spend or how little you need to spend to get there. We can run all of that. We can run different scenarios if you're strong in one area and weak in others, what that actually looks like. So you can do that before you spend any money, before you invest tens of thousands of dollars. You can know all of that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I thoroughly recommend doing Paul's masterclass. I got so much out of it, and I love the visual aspect, and there's a bit of humor in there as well, but it's really practical and it's really concise and informative. And so thank you. I'm so glad you came on today. I'm really grateful. So thank you so much for being here. And
It's funny to
yeah.
say that you like the visual aspect because it's very scratchy. It's all handwritten. It's a digital workshop, but it's all handwritten. It's all just like, it's a bit of a mishmash.
I love it.
From a design point of view, it's fucking terrible.
It's cool.
But it's very unique and it's very,
Right.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, awesome. Well, we'll chat soon, and I'll pop up the details for your website. And yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the chat.
See ya.
See ya.